I mentioned the schedule, obviously with 8 home games. It couldn't really be a lot more favorable for the Bears. I mean, there's still some tough games in there, but your first 4, right, are at
Yeah.
home. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy to think that, it'll be a month before we have to go on the road. But um so let me get a little crazy for a second. All right. Fill in the blank of this sentence. Um, the Bears will contend for the Big 12 championship if.
If they beat Texas Tech on October 7th.
Okay.
I know that that's probably oversimplifying everything, but I just think that game, if I were Dave Aranda and I actually circled game on the calendar, that would be circled on my calendar. I think that there are 2 top teams in the Big 12, and that's Texas and Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma is going to have a resurgent year, and Texas is going to be pretty good. I think everybody else is fighting to maybe catch Oklahoma if they stumble, or Texas does what Texas tends to do and loses a couple games that they probably shouldn't. And I think Texas Tech and Baylor and Kansas State and TCU are all right there. And so I think that game against Texas Tech, if Baylor wins that game, then there's a pretty good chance that they're 2-1 going into the bye week, right? And then they have at Cincinnati, Iowa State, and Houston. Those are all, in my opinion, pretty winnable games. 2 of those are at home, right? And then back-to-back road games against Kansas State and TCU. You'd think that those would be like probably going to lose. TCU is in the college football playoff. Kansas State brings back plenty. But both of those games are the week after those teams play against Texas, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah.
So, Kansas State plays Texas on the 4th, and then Baylor gets them. And, same thing with TCU. So I think that both of those teams are going to be up for that game against Texas because that's their last year in the SEC and before going to the SEC. And I don't know. I think there's an opportunity for Baylor to get both of those games. So that's why I circled Texas Tech as the game that can kind of change the direction of the season.
Yeah, I like that. That might bode well for the Bears in terms of good mojo because so they went to Lubbock last year and it was their first trip to Lubbock in a long time. Or did I not go the last time? I'm trying to remember. Maybe 2 years ago John went by himself, but at any rate, they had a long stretch where I think it was their first trip to Lubbock in forever last season because they had a long stretch where that series was played up at Jerry World every year, and then they finally decided, oh, let's go back to home and home. And so the first year that they went back to home and home, Tech came here to Waco, and so last year Baylor went out there, and it was Patrick Mahomes night. They were retiring his jersey. Everyone was in black. It was a night game in Lubbock. It all set up for Tech, right, to just really almost roll over Baylor. And Baylor played just unbelievably good. It was easily the best performance by Baylor's secondary all year. I want to say they had 4 interceptions. A lot of those young defensive backs that they've got really showed out in that game. And so, maybe that's a good sign. I'm sure Tech will remember that game and want to get a little payback as they come to Waco. It won't be easy. I think Joey McGuire's doing a good job. I think he's a good fit for that program there in Lubbock. But yeah, I like that as kind of a linchpin, circle it kind of game. Obviously, you have to be consistent to win the Big 12. I mean, you're going to have to win a lot of games, but it does, to me, bode well for Baylor that they get so many of them at home. You do avoid both Oklahoma teams? You don't
both
play
Oklahoma teams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
both
both no
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma teams.
Yeah, so those are two good ones to avoid. I mean,
Yeah, especially OU. I think OSU is probably going to be down a little bit this year, but yeah,
yeah,
you never know.
yeah. I mean, and we'll see. Obviously the preseason poll didn't think too highly of any of the new teams in the league. But Baylor's got a couple road games that they've got to go, there to some new opponents in UCF and Cincinnati. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we'll know a lot more. Obviously, once September gets here and we get a chance to really see this team against some actual opponents, including that second game of the year. I think that'll tell us a lot
Amen
against
to that.
Utah. I mean, that's a good one.